Welcome back. You're still with us. You're doing great. And you're beginning to get a handle on the philosophies. I know it's an awful lot coming at you at once. You're probably going to want to go over this course several times. Why? Because remember we said reality is layered? The strange thing is, each time you listen to this, you're going to think about it a slightly different way. You won't believe me now, but as you're learning these concepts, you're actually changing your mind. You're changing the way that you think about things. And when you go back to this training, you'll see it different. And if you were to go back again, you'd see it different. And if you went back again, you'd see it different. That's simply showing you that you're learning, you're making new distinctions, and you're growing. So in this section, we're going to look at some additional major Zen teachings. Zen is a better way of being in the world. I love this because it's all about contribution. In life, I'll call this the deathbed scenario. You know how you learn what life is about? You think about the deathbed scenario. When you look back over your life, when you're on your deathbed, what are the only things that you're going to care about? You're going to care about whether you had a full and rich life, if you absorbed it all, if you were good to people, and if you contributed. What did I contribute? I love my life. I've got this one nailed. What do I do for a living? I spent most of my life being a therapist. I was also a corporate trainer and university professor. So I made my entire paycheck year after year after year for decades doing nothing but helping people at various levels. Now I'm teaching these courses. I'm going national and international as a trainer. So my sense of contribution is huge. In life, you want to look at your contribution. You know, maybe you make toasters all day and you can say, well, people need toasters. But you may want to do a higher level of contribution and say, well, how can I contribute more to my family, to my neighbors, to my friends? Maybe you want to put a course out there in the universe. Do something for contribution. Donate your time, your energy, your compassion. Do something that will give you a sense of contribution, and you will be able to sit on your deathbed and feel good. And all the moments in between, you'll feel good because you'll know you contributed. So contribution is huge in life. Zen is also about getting the most out of life. Like I talked about in the last section, it's about sucking all the juice out of life. Being present, being aware, having this extrasensory perception where you're getting everything out of life. You're fully alive, fully aware, getting all the juice from it. And you do no harm. You don't hurt anybody else. The Hippocratic Oath says, first do no harm. I never want to get back at anybody. I don't want revenge. The best revenge is being massively successful and living a good life and enjoying your life. I don't have time to slow down for people that are small and petty and angry. I wish them well and wish them on their way. Do no harm. Zen also teaches us a lot of new philosophies. Zen, some people say it's an Indian belief, some people say it's an Asian belief, it's a little bit of both, it's kind of a mix. Buddha was Indian, but Zen is very well taken care of in Asian culture, very important part of their culture. Zen is the study of truth, of wisdom, of reality, ultimate truth, ultimate reality. So all cultures can contribute to it. All people can contribute to it. And it basically has two facets. Inner wisdom, wisdom that you get from within yourself as you begin to listen to your own thoughts, not the normal chattering, but your true inner wisdom. And it's ancient wisdom, things that people have accumulated over literally thousands of years. You know, just the Buddhist philosophies that go into Zen. Buddha, he passed around 600 BC before Christ, so we're talking about 2,600 plus years and counting. So it has a very deep and rich base. Zen's going to increase our level of understanding about ourselves and others. So some internal work, some external work, and some relationship work all rolled into one. It's also going to help you understand what we call the natural laws, how things actually work in the universe, what's the rules of the game, and also known as the way of things, how things happen, and having serenity and knowing, hey, that's just the way of things. You know, you don't get mad when water rolls downhill. It's supposed to. You'd almost be perturbed if it didn't. Why is that water rolling uphill? It's kind of messing with my reality. So we gain a deep, rich understanding of how things work, and then we say what is, and we're well satisfied with that. People get frustrated when they say, well, something's this way, but it ought to be this way. That's frustration. Your frustration will be an exact one-to-one proportion to your resistance to reality. We'll talk more about that later. And finally, Zen helps us to remove old pain and old suffering. Where does this old pain and old suffering come from? It comes from the ego. It's a defect of your mind that you have this strange personality. We call it the ego. And you get this negative inner critic. It's a false self. That it's a defective character. Again, it's this funny thing that you have in your brain. You're the only animal in the animal kingdom that has it. It's a false sense of self. And your life is less livable because of it. I'm going to do an entire section on this. You also have your story. And we'll talk more about that later. Your ego creates a story about who you are, wrapped up in all these belief systems and this history about this past, which we said what? Doesn't exist. And this story repeats itself. And we have our BS. That's just short for belief system. Again, we'll talk more about that later. I have to do this in a layered kind of way because I have to introduce you to a concept, let it gestate for a while, and then break it down for you. It's also about the removal of illusions. The strange thing in Zen is one of the original concepts is that 99% of what you think is true and think is real and think you understand, upon rigorous examination, your rigorous examination, you will find to your satisfaction that actually wasn't true, or that your understanding of it was very thin, because remember there's multiple layers. You might know one thing about something and say, I know it. That's an illusion. The reality is you know one thing about something that there may be 50 things to know and maybe another 50 that you can't know yet. But you keep a question mark in your mind and say they're out there, and you put a pin on it and say I understand what I understand at my what? At my current level of awareness.